In bad times and even in good times, one of the most dangerous things that kills business and kills small business is debt. Taking on debt, taking on too much debt to start a business, to grow a business. You want to expand, you go to the bank. It's been something that has gotten a lot of businesses into trouble, but there is an alternative and there is a way to grow your business without relying on debt. I'm going to share with you my philosophy on this and exactly what you can do to grow your business faster and gain a competitive advantage. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Henderson. Here at Nomad Capitalist, we talk about how to legally reduce your taxes by going overseas, how to protect yourself and increase your freedom with things like a second passport, and how to take part in new boom markets you can invest in or start a business in all around the world. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. And what I want to really talk about today is debt and how detrimental it can be to your business. You know, I've been watching the news over the last couple of months and I've seen a string of high-profile bankruptcies. Hertz, the big car rental company, lots of clothing companies, J.Crew, Neiman Marcus, J.C. companies all around the world, especially in the United States where bankruptcy laws are a little bit different. You've seen companies go BK. And what was interesting is, yes, the coronavirus had an impact on people not renting cars or not going to malls. But I remember reading a very interesting article that really got me thinking about J.Crew. J.Crew started as a catalog retailer, eventually opened stores around the world. They grew their business very quickly. It wasn't so long ago that they did not have very many stores around the world at all. Now they have a lot of stores, not only in the United States, but also around the world. And yet some of those stores, I suppose, are going to have to close because they grew too quickly. When they started this big expansion, they had very little in debt. I believe it was about $50 million. That went up to $1.7 billion in debt at the time of their bankruptcy. Now, we can argue that, selling clothes in physical locations is maybe not the best strategy. Although I'll tell you, outside of the United States and Canada and Australia and some of those countries, people do still like going to the mall. I go to the mall and I see lots of people shopping and buying stuff in person. Online shopping is certainly picking up in most places in the world, but J.Crew's online, they're in store. For me, the big issue that was the nail in their coffin was going to $1.7 billion in debt, because for so long they were just sustainably growing with a little bit of debt, and they did just fine. And so debt is what accelerated for many of these companies their demise. They took on money from some kind of venture firm, or they went to a bank and got a big loan because they couldn't wait to expand. Now, I've talked about how I have zero debt. I don't want debt. I believe that especially in bad times, as we've seen recently, you want to have a cash position. You want to have a diversified cash position. If you're an international business like we are, you want to have that cash position in different countries so that no one banking system can control you. If one country decides to shut down the banks for a couple of weeks or do bail-ins and skim some of your cash position, then you'll be protected somewhere else. But make no mistake, that is the advantage that you need to have if you're in a business, is being able to weather storms. It's very hard to weather a storm when you have debt. And so what I really believe instead is very important is that you want to look to everything that you can control, controlling as many of the variables in your business as possible. Okay, what are those? Number one, the taxes that you pay. Number two, the labor costs that you pay. Number three, the cost of living, where you, the owner, are and where your team members are. In today's world, if you run a business that can ship stuff through the mail, e-commerce business, if you run a cloud business, consulting, affiliate marketing, whatever it may be, you can solve two of those issues, number one and three, the tax issue and the cost of living issue, by choosing to move somewhere else. You can choose to move to a lower cost of living, lower tax jurisdiction, and then using my tax-friendly quadrant that we've talked about in other videos, you can use your own personal move to facilitate your company moving overseas and potentially paying as little as 0% in tax while serving people in other countries where you may have come from. You can also move your team overseas and lower your labor costs. Now, we're seeing higher unemployment numbers in a lot of the world right now. But certainly, if you look at some countries before this whole mess started, some of these countries had extremely low unemployment numbers. It was very competitive and very expensive to go out and hire people, and you had lots of labor regulations and all that. And so if you were to go and hire in places where they have more available jobs, where unemployment is higher, people are looking for work, and the cost of living is lower, places like Eastern Europe, Asia, perhaps Latin America, even Middle East, Northern Africa. There are plenty of places around the world where people are actively looking for work because their unemployment rate is 10 or 20%, or especially, the youth, people who are, up to 25, 30 years old, their unemployment rate may be 30%. And so they're looking for work, and you can hire more affordably. And so you can do any of these things on their own. You could simply do what a lot of digital nomads do and choose to move to Vietnam and start your business. You can then add on local staff in Vietnam or somewhere in that region. And Vietnam could be any country. But if your business is doing well, if you're a long-term, successful business, the taxes to me are going to be the biggest thing that's going to get in your way. And it's a great way to get a competitive advantage, because when all of your competitors are taking out debt to fund and to grow their operations, because they are basically in a place where water seeks its own level, right? If they live in the United States, for example, they have U.S. expenses. They have a U.S. only mindset where, hey, that's just the thing you do. You go to the Small Business Administration, you get a loan. If you can bypass their strategies and bypass their mindset, you will have a lot more money coming in free and clear to save some for a rainy day and to be able to grow your business organically. A lot of people who come to us, I ask them, why are these tax savings important? I had a gentleman the other day, makes about $700,000 a year. He's trying to get into the multi-seven figures, but he's paying about $250,000 in tax. He said, I could put that $250,000 back into the business because I'm getting a 3-to-1 return on all of my advertising dollars right now. And there's no guarantee those advertising dollars are going to scale, permanently. But he says, I'm thinking I can make more than $500,000 extra, up to $750,000 a year, and basically be able to double my profits over the next year or two just by recycling that money in business that the government was wasting before. And so he doesn't have to go out and borrow money on credit cards. I've seen far too many people who've come to me who are in his position, who to get to that position racked up their credit cards, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 in some cases in inventory. And what if the business fails? Now they're stuck with this debt. And that's the worst kind of debt, the consumer debt, where you've got to pay it back now. Okay? So think about it this way. You've got a lot of people right now who are going to be suffering. A lot of the people who went out and bought Airbnb properties, they bought 10 or 20 properties, they leveraged them up, 5%, 10% down. Don't worry, the Airbnbers will pay the mortgage. Not anymore. Governments go out and do this, right? Why is it that people want to park their money in places like Singapore with no net debt? Why is it that a lot of people who live in the United States are saying, $25 trillion in debt doesn't seem very sustainable, right? Because it's not. It's not sustainable for countries. It's not sustainable for investors. It's not sustainable for businesses, right? And so you can go overseas and you can buy a home and you can get a mortgage in some places, like in Asia. You might be able to borrow 60 or 70%. You might need a residence permit first, but debt is not as easy to obtain overseas, and that's why I think some of the property markets that we talk about are more sustainable. They grow more sustainably. You don't see ups and downs that are triggered by the credit markets. You look at frontier markets where there's very little access to credit, prices just kind of steadily go up. And that's really what I like for my life. If I'm a stock, I want to be a growth and income stock. I want to be a blue chip, just steadily going up for the rest of my life. Building a higher and higher income, building a stronger net worth. Every year, just kind of going up a little bit. With debt, obviously, you see people, they have massive swings. They go from $1 to $1 million overnight, but then you see a lot of other people come crashing down. For me, the benefit of going offshore, the benefit of taking advantage of hiring in places where it's more favorable and people are more eager, the benefits of saving more money in tax, the benefit of being able to reduce your own cost of living. You could potentially save 70 or 80% in some cases between taxes and labor and your own personal costs. You could totally change the game on your business to where you don't even think about debt anymore. But when you do that, now you are ahead of the curve. Now you are building something sustainable. For me, and everything I've seen in my life, debt is not sustainable. I don't want it. I think you can do without it. And if you apply the stuff we're talking about here, with just those three strategies, you can dramatically increase your margins to where you don't need it. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.